What's up, comrades?
What's up, dude?
Not much. Just excited for today's stream.
Another episode of the Shaggy Mop podcast. This is the Vanguard.
Indeed. I'm Gavin. Welcome to the show, guys.
What's up, everybody?
Yeah. Sorry, we were like a minute late. Zach and I were chatting and didn't even realize what time it was, but we are here. We're ready to divulge the news.
Creatures. Nothing's changed.
Exactly. Trying to get my mic all perfect. I don't want to be blocking the fuck out of everything. Anyway, welcome to the stream, everyone. As I said, I'm Gavin, and that's Zach. This is the Vanguard. We're coming to you guys pretty much live at this point. Speaking with a lot of great guests. We're going to be inviting on a special guest today. At some point, another lefty content creator. So we're super excited for that. We got some good stories to go over. Also, we recently introduced our YouTube memberships. So if you want to get all the extra perks in the live stream and the live chat, for example, we got some emojis that we're rolling out, or some gifts, stuff like that. I just added a few more of the emojis, so you guys can have fun with that. It should be a really good time, and it's only like $2.99 to become a member at the lowest level. So just wanted to let everyone know that we have rolled out that feature.
Another thing we've rolled out, it's coming a little bit later tonight as well, that I don't want to forget to plug while we're giving you guys this artillery fire of information. We have a new book club that we've been rolling out. Last Thursday was our first Vanguard book club crossover with our good friend Kamali Rose over at the Radical Democracy Show. If you were around for our Hate Inc. book club, it's a similar kind of a style, although we're now co-hosting it with our friend Kamali. And we're doing chunks of Cornel West's awesome book, Democracy Matters. So stick around a little bit later tonight, 7 p.m. Central. So depending on where you are, adjust accordingly. We'll be doing that. So, yeah.
And that'll be on a separate stream.
Yeah, that'll be a different stream.
And also shout out again to Radical Leftist Agenda, our first member. And I'm working on. I'm just trying to get a picture. It's so hard with my face to cut out a perfect emoji.
Yeah, Gavin didn't give a shit when he was cutting out a picture of me. He was like,
well, no, that's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying to find a good picture of myself. I'm saying to find one that I can easily cut out, because this red and black in the background actually makes it really hard to Photoshop just my face out of the background. It makes it a nightmare, to be frank. So I'm working on it. But that
also
is coming.
Shout out to our patrons. We have our patron shout out. As Gavin mentioned in the past few live streams, we have had to condense our board. It was getting out of order. Just for people who were watching a lot of people watch this on their phone. So that was becoming an issue. But now everybody can see their names clear as day, comrades, Vanguardians. And just remember, every member is a comrade in our heart. Every viewer is a comrade in our heart. Just make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. But without further ado, housekeeping aside, did we have anything else that we needed to get to before the show?
Not really. Just that link's in the description for the Patreon. Obviously, you can unlock our Discord that way, and a bunch of other really cool benefits that you'll want to check out at patreon.com/the Vanguard channel. But that's not why you guys are here. You're here for the news. You're here for the commentary.
So we'll rage against the machine.
Yeah, exactly. And I guess a good way to start off this live stream would just be to remind everyone that obviously we do stand in solidarity with Palestine right now. You know, undergoing an absolute barrage. It's honestly heartbreaking every time I open my news feed to see the latest in this assault. It's quite frankly
neocolonialism.
100% neocolonialism. Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know. It's definitely tough to take these images and to take the American, pro-Zionist, pro-Israel, just constantly at the media, the president, everyone enforcing these antiquated racist ideas that just do not gel in with what should be a modern day situation that America's enabling and funding. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and this is important to point out to everybody. The United States support for the country of Israel has absolutely nothing to do with any kind of commitment to Jewish protection. That should be the first thing that has to be dispelled whenever you're having one of these conversations and you're trying to talk to people who may not be as familiar with this issue. So after Israel's founding, and for a long time after, the United States wasn't a large supporter of Israel because we were trying to position ourselves more favorably with the oil barons in the Middle East, right? And only when Israel presented itself as sort of like a little bit, not a physical island, but like a little bit of a station for the United States to do military actions covertly and basically have a arm in the Middle East. That was when we started to pump them up with a shit ton of funding. So it's all about military strategy, right? It all goes back to U.S. imperialism. It has nothing to do with the bullshit, like any other thing, right? When they say, "Oh, we're going to Iraq to, give freedom and promote democracy," and that was all horseshit. Like, it's all just horseshit justification for U.S. imperialism and Israeli imperialism when it comes to the Palestinians, right? So what they're doing is they're forcibly resettling people from their homes right now, guys. This is crazy shit. Imagine if we decided in America that all of these people of a certain ethnic group had to be moved and put into a new place. Okay, nobody here would be acceptable. Nobody here would find that at all acceptable. Nobody would. Let's say that after 9/11, we said all Muslims had to go be moved to a certain area. They all had to be relocated out of New York. They had to be relocated out of Los Angeles. They had to be relocated out of anywhere where they could do damage because, oh my gosh, 9/11, right? We have to be proactively counter-terrorists, right? These are the kind of horseshit arguments that they're trying to present to justify kicking people out of their homes. Innocent people who have lived there for generations, their family's land that they own. So what's absurd is not it's the fact that this isn't the obvious default position of everybody, the U.S. media, right? It's a circus and it's a complete, it's just mythology that's been peddled. It's propaganda. It's a complete lie.
Yeah, and especially
any kind of two-sidesism to this. I mean, that's and people always want to say like, oh yeah, there's a long sordid history of oppression of Jews. I'm not dissenting from that.
Well,
but what I am
like
saying is there's a ginormous power imbalance today in 2021 between Israel and Palestine.
I think that the historical oppression actually makes this all the more. I don't know the word, but seeing images of people taken from their homes in the night, obviously based on their ethnicity or race, it obviously brings to mind, it evokes images, historical memories of what happened in Nazi Germany. So to me, it's mind blowing that there's not more of a connection. Not that more people aren't putting two and two together. We're taught in education, we're taught growing up to never let another Holocaust happen. Never again. This message about ethnic cleansing and the horrors of genocide. Yet what we see happening in Israel and Palestine is ethnic cleansing. It is genocide. And seemingly there's no or very little mainstream recognition of that in Jewish circles, from what I can observe, which is very eerie.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't follow like Jewish circles. I'm not a member of Jewish circles, so I won't speak to that.
Mainstream Jewish circles are entirely supportive of Israel.
Well, yeah, I mean, I would say that that's probably more indicative of just mainstream culture, right? They wouldn't be mainstream Jewish outlets if they were not supportive of Israel, right? They would be subverted outlets just like anywhere else. So I think it's important.
I mean, mainstream outlets recognize other human rights atrocities. So
but they won't in Israel. None of them will.
That's my point. That's why it's eerie.
Yeah, no, yeah.
Given what happened historically with the Jewish population, I don't understand how they don't understand how more people aren't putting this together. And of course, that has nothing to do with any person's religion. But I just find it interesting.
It's all to do with there's a certain line in this country that becomes the absolute like corporate line that will not be crossed, and it's so, I guess, entrenched in the system, or I guess all the people that have any quote unquote power are so entrenched in the system that even when it is so blatant, like you said, Gavin, so obvious that this is essentially they're trying to create they're resettling people. They're
ethnic cleansing.
Yeah, ethnically cleansing.
I mean, they're only evicting people based on their ethnicities, so that is ethnic cleansing.
100%. And so I guess, but it's weird how I guess I don't know. I'm trying to find my right words here, right? The whole corporate line has so deeply affected every single American outlet that they have complete unity on this issue when it's at its face completely absurd to be on that side of the issue, right? Like you cannot in any other circumstance imagine people. I mean, maybe you could. I can't think of one where the entire United States and all of Western democratic media are standing on the side of what is an obvious, like you said, Gavin, an ethnic cleansing, a resettlement, a obvious modern day neo-colonialism in full, unbridled, unmitigated fashion. They are only targeting people of Palestinian descent, the Muslim population of Israel, right? They are, and all of these things that are happening. There's no way to justify being even like on the fence about this or playing a both sidesism. There's no way to do it.
Yeah, it's genuinely crazy. And I like with the images coming out, with what we know to be the reality about the history of Israel and Palestine, it genuinely blows my mind that we don't see more, people being honest about it, even in our intensely propagandistic, media and all that stuff. It just blows my mind that people are still willing and able to maintain this illusion. It's crazy. But luckily, our good friends over at Rage Against the Machine, one of Zach's favorite bands, one that I also really enjoy, maybe not quite as big of a fan, but I do love them. They put out a statement here that definitely ruffled some feathers, which is pretty hilarious given the political content of the band. But I thought it was pretty cool to see them come out in solidarity with Palestine.
Yeah, obviously. I mean, if you're familiar with Rage Against the Machine's music, they're obviously very vocally anti-imperialist. And one of the things that I've always found most impressive about their early discography, I mean, they put out their really a lot of their most famous tracks came as part of a tape that was released in 91. And then in 92, when their self-titled came out, these people were openly, creating music. And Zach De La Rocha was rapping about what was going on in Central and South America. He was rapping about, putting up puppet dictators and how we would only, more for gore or the son of a drug lord, none of the above, fuck it, cut the cord, right? He was always plugged into that, right? As well as the deep history of United States undermining democratic. Yeah, dude, apparently they did a legendary tour with Wu-Tang. And there was a riot at one of the shows too. There was like a famous riot with Wu-Tang and Rage Against the Machine when they played like
a literal riot.
Yeah, I remember Seth Rogen actually did like a long ass story about it that he tells in a podcast one time where he's talking about how the only riot he's ever been at was at a Rage Against the Machine Wu-Tang concert.
That would have been fucking legendary. I love the Wu-Tang Clan. I mean, I also love Rage Against the Machine, but that would have been a crazy concert to go to.
Yeah, dude, fucking nuts, man. Especially when ODB was still alive. Like, oh my God, it would have been insane. But anyway, they had so many anti-imperialist lyrics, but they also had a tremendous scope of, American history, right? So, they have lines like, they came after King when he spoke out in Vietnam, and, they tried to come after X and then they blamed it on Islam. I'm not surprised to see this, right? Gavin and I were talking a little bit before the show about how, like just the last time that I saw about Rage Against the Machine, it was people dragging Tom Morello. So this is good. This is the kind of press that I want to see Rage Against the Machine getting. And I'm super, super, super fucking excited for their reunion tour. I hope it doesn't suck because I'm going to be devastated if it does. Again, this is one of my favorite bands of all time. The first album is probably my favorite, but Evil Empire actually turned 25 this year. And you can probably anticipate that before the year is over, you'll get some Vanguard related Evil Empire content, kind of reflecting on the legacy of that tremendous album and the fact that the best Pete Buttigieg meme was created in its honor. So
that was so funny. Yeah. And and like you mentioned, we would love to go see the reunion show, which is happening in El Paso, correct?
There's one in El Paso. There's going to be one in Kansas City.
There's going to be one in KC.
Yeah.
Well, shit. Well, yeah, we'll definitely try to do that. Try to go to that. Maybe get some footage for you guys whenever that happens, because that would be pretty legendary. And I also
know a lot of people in the comment section. It's like if you saw them in the 90s, I know that this isn't going to be nearly as cool, and you're like, oh, there's no reason to see them. But
it'd still be cool.
I'm going to be fucking out of my mind excited to see them. Like, I mean, yeah.
I thought this was funny too, because obviously, like you just mentioned, Rage Against the Machine has not exactly shied away from political, messaging in their lyrics. In fact, that's kind of been the point of their music in many instances. So it was really funny that some people got upset about this statement. Again, referring to the Palestinian-Israel situation that's currently going on. Here's a comment on Facebook. Someone says, "Another successful musician instantly becomes a political expert." Again, this guy has probably only ever heard Rage Against the Machine songs like on the radio and hasn't actually Googled the lyrics. He just
bro, even their most popular song, guys, let me break down Bulls on Parade to you. When he says they rally around your family, he's talking about the Republican Party rallying around the family and the idea of the nuclear family with a pocket full of shells while they're overseas killing people. Okay, that's what he's talking about, right? Right. Microphone explodes, shattering the mold. Either drop your hits like De La O or get the fuck off the commode, get off the toilet if you're not acting like De La O, the revolutionary. Okay, these is ingrained in even their most accessible songs that are on the radio. You can't hide from it. So yeah,
I guess, but though I will say, even I'm guilty of it sometimes. I'll just literally be listening to a song and then I won't actually process a single lyric.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's literally just noise, and that can definitely happen, especially with some of their songs where they're kind of like screaming and shit. Like I can kind of understand how, you know, if you've literally never sat down and listened to a Rage Against the Machine album, that you would just be like, what the fuck is this? But it is hilarious, again, given the actual content of their lyrics, if you've given a shit to take a moment to check it out. And of course, Morello replies here, one does not have to be an honors grad in political science from Harvard University to recognize the unethical and inhumane nature of this administration. But, well, I happen to be an honors grad in political science from Harvard University, so I can confirm that for you, which is actually pretty funny and something I didn't know. I actually didn't know that he was a political science guy.
Yeah, I had no idea. I mean, it's an honors grad, so they probably gave that to him just because he's famous. I think that's usually what an honorary doctorate means, but
oh, is that having an honors grad?
Yeah, an honorary doctorate. That's kind of like when Kanye got a doctorate from the University of Chicago. Like, I don't think he actually went through the qualifications of getting a PhD. But we can look it up really quick, because if he did, that would be tight. I would just imagine that it's an honorary doctorate.
No, I think what he's saying is that he was like he graduated with honors, like he was an honors student.
Oh, holy shit, that's way more impressive then.
Like, I don't think he would have just dropped that fact if it had just been a symbolic, you know, performative award. But I also remember when they tried to start that other group that was like Prophets of Rage.
Yo,
like,
Zach De La Rocha was never a part of Prophets of Rage. Okay, and look, here's the thing about Rage Against the Machine. Without Zach, they're nothing. Look, Tom Morello deserves credit where credit's due. That wow, 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 wow. That's legendary guitar sound. And for people who are listening who don't know but are curious, that legendary Rage Against the Machine sound, that was invented by Tom Morello when he unplugged his amp cord from his guitar and started using that as the pick. I mean, that's some Jimi Hendrix Next World genius kind of shit. But what happened is right after they did like a Renegades album is what it's called. It's a covers album. And then they did like a stadium tour that they did a live album for. Oh, damn. Yeah. So Radical Democracy Show is telling me the truth. I had no fucking idea. That's totally way more impressive than what I was thinking, which is like an honorary doctorate, which is kind of something that they just give to people who are famous and like did something important. But yeah, anyway, Zach De La Rocha quit.
To be fair, I don't think it's an honors doctorate. I just think it's an honors degree. So he probably just got a bachelor's in political science from Harvard.
Oh, wait, sorry. I thought okay, either way. Doesn't matter.
I think he just graduated with honors, but I know what you're saying. But so, you know, he's not like a PhD. He's not like fucking Cornell West or whatever. But like,
right?
Definitely knows more than your average guy.
No, and obviously you don't need to go to Harvard to be a smart guy. But yeah, he's just making a point. But either way, what I'm saying is that Zach De La Rocha originally quit Rage Against the Machine because he thought that they were compromising their ethics and their political message for Capitol, and that's when the guys from Rage Against the Machine they broke up and they started Audio Slave with Chris Cornell, rest in peace, from Soundgarden, and then they became another way less good band that was very popular and also still popular, but whatever. But yeah, anyway, it wasn't until now that Zach De La Rocha is finally coming back to do anything with the band.
But he was not involved with the Prophets of Rage shit.
No.
Yeah, because I remember
that was Cypress Hill and
and Public Enemy, right?
Public Enemy did have a few people that were involved in that.
I remember being like, "Hey, this is a powerful lineup," and then the music was not good at all.
Yeah, Chuck D hasn't hit for a while, but the first two Public Enemy albums are just like so legendary that he gets a pass for all time. But yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean all the guys do. Even the Cypress Hill guys will be legends forever.
I don't like Cypress Hill at all, and I know that's an unpopular opinion, dude. If it's like nails on chalkboard. Speaking of Cypress Hill, Insane in the Membrane is a good song. Insane
in the Membrane fucking rocks, bro.
It's annoying.
Insane in the Membrane.
How I Could Just Kill a Man when Rage Against the Machine covers it is way harder. Zach De La Rocha is way harder.
But Cypress Hill isn't necessarily supposed to be hard. It's supposed to be like,
dude, he has a song where he's talking about killing a man in cold blood, and when Zach De La Rocha does it, it's like,
yeah, but it's not supposed to be like screaming. Is all.
No,
I mean.
I know what you mean. I know what you mean.
Insane in the membrane. I do like Cypress Hill, but I do know what you're saying.
That just got canceled.
Yeah, everyone else likes them too, bro. No, I'm just kidding. Anyway, but I do think it's dope that, Rage Against the Machine, obviously it's not like, oh, good job for, accurately, addressing the situation, or like, good job, whatever. But it is cool that they continue to embody the values of anti-imperialism and raging against the machine and, all that stuff. And also, I just think it's hilarious that some people apparently had a problem with that sentiment when they didn't have a problem with the sentiments expressed in, Rage Against the Machine album. So literally Evil Empire, like it's pretty explicit, like you said, what their message is. It would be hard to miss, but I guess some people did.
You have to really try and miss the fucking message, bro. Like, I mean, like, yeah, especially if you bought the album. Like, I can understand if you were like what you were describing, just being like a passive radio listener. But if you make it through one and start to finish on that, and you're not like ready to burn the system to the ground for the correct reasons, like I don't even know what to tell you. But anyway, one of the things I did really want to get to outside of Rage Against the Machine when it comes to the issue of Israel and Palestine is the fact that Joe Biden has been so fucking absent from this conversation. He is not leading at all in any kind of meaningful way, which isn't surprising, which is why we're only now bringing it up. But it should be surprising, right? The fact that we don't have like that he's just hiding away, that he's not even addressing, he's not even out there giving fucking like trying to give a sales pitch to the American people. He's just not engaging at all. And in fact, I went ahead and pulled up this readout of his statement or whatever the fuck. And it was like, this is what the press secretary was supposed to read in regards to his call.
This thing?
Yeah. And it's this is essentially just the chalk fucking worst thing that you could put out right afterwards. It's nothing that we weren't expecting, but it is something that I thought was worth covering. And this is, President Biden spoke today with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, and this was on the 12th. He condemned the rocket attacks by Hamas and other terrorist groups, did not condemn anything that Israel was doing, including against Jerusalem and Tel Aviv. He conveyed his unwavering support for Israel's security and for Israel's legitimate right to defend itself and its people while protecting civilians. He also conveyed the United States encouragement of a pathway towards restoring a sustainable calm. He shared his conviction that Jerusalem, a city of such importance to people of faith from around the world, must be a place of peace. He updated the prime minister on the United States diplomatic engagement with regional countries, blah, 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 blah. The two leaders agreed to maintain the close consultation between their teams, which has included consistent engagement by the respective foreign ministers, defense ministers, yada, yada, yada. Essentially, he has absolutely no problem with the aforementioned ethnic cleansing that has occurred, the relocation by Israeli forces that are being funded by the United States. That's our taxpayers are doing this, guys. That's the real kicker. That's why this matters. That's why we won't shut the fuck up. Well, we won't shut the fuck up about it for a whole host of reasons. But one of the primary reasons is that this is something that we actually have the ability as United States citizens to help put an end to. The United States is responsible for Israel's persecution of Palestine insofar as it cannot continue to do so without our aid.
Yeah, 100%. And also just this bullshit line of logic that anytime Israel violates any sort of laws or human rights of the Palestinian people, that it's just them defending themselves, even though what they're defending themselves against is literally like a ragtag militia of like rock wielding, resistant insurgents or whatever you want to call them, people that are literally like freedom fighters, essentially resisting the apartheid and colonial state on their land. And again, these, evictions, whatever, forced evictions is continuing examples of the encroachment and further settlement. Of course, it's going to inspire resistance. They have no other choice. If you were forcibly evicted from your house, I would imagine you would probably take a similar step. I mean, out of desperation, if literally nothing else. So basically the logic being set up here, and that gets set up every time, is that Israel can do whatever the fuck they want, obviously with our money and weapons, and that it's all going to fall under self-defense. They can go out there and just start bombing Palestine on any day of the week, and all they have to say is, well, they started it, essentially, even if that's not true, even if them starting it was provoked by evictions and other illegal encroachment and ethnic cleansing activities. So it's just maddening, honestly, to see this happen over and over and over again, because, despite the renewed interest in this situation, it's really nothing new. This has been going on for literally years, decades. Like, I remember when I was a kid hearing about the attacks on Gaza and the massacre and the bombs and the children slaughtered. And then it was the exact same response then. Nothing has changed. Essentially, the only thing that has changed from what I can tell is there is now somewhat of a space, especially online, especially in places like Twitter and social media, for calls to boycott, divest, sanction, for calls, for Palestinian liberation. And seemingly the only reason for that is because of, Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib, and other prominent activists for Palestine, which have kind of done some work in erasing that taboo, because before them, there really was no space to even make the call for BDS. So it's pretty shameful that the small amount of progress which has happened in the last, in my entire lifetime, is literally gone from you can't even talk about this problem to now you can call for a boycott, divestment, and sanction and be smeared as an anti-Semite. That's the motion.
And what's been really evidenced by that is when I'm reading Cornel West, Democracy Matters, and how he has himself changed his tone dramatically. And I think it is just that he was trying to reach people. You could not reach anybody if you used the kind of more pointed language that we use now. And I did just want to give a shout out to Eric W. That's one of my favorite fucking rage lyrics. Land of the free, whoever told you that is your enemy. It's from Know Your Enemy. It's up there in that section right there. Anyway, shout out to you, bro. You're a real one. But yeah, I think that's exactly the point, and it's too slow, and it's why, and it's why we can't compromise on this issue, and it's why people are not going to fucking compromise on this issue, and it's why, people who are on the left get so short with people about it, right? Because imagine you're just walking into this and you're like, oh, well, what is going on? Aren't both sides doing bad things? A lot of times I do feel like people on the left have a tendency to be snippy about it and be like, what, do you support fucking genocide, you piece of shit? And it's like, I do want to take the time to be like, I understand that if you're just coming to this issue for the first time and you're just now waking up to politics, the short answer is that the best way to understand this for you, if you're plugged into American politics but not plugged into international politics, is do you remember when there were all those videos, or if you went to the protests, I guarantee you saw this, is some fucking 18-year-old kid at a protest throws a bottle cap at a cop, and now they get the shit kicked out of them and hauled off to fucking jail, right? So it's like that times infinity, the kind of dramatic scale in the difference in what's happening. So is it true to say that there's never been a terrorist attack against a Palestinian from Israel? Of course, that's not fair to say. But when you're talking about the power imbalance, when you're talking about the scale of what's happening, and you're talking about the fact that Israel has prevented every single fucking means of peaceful resistance from the Palestinian people, that is why people get frustrated, because you're going to get smeared if you support a boycott, divest, and sanction peaceful protest, and you're going to get fucking murdered regardless of what you fucking do. You, as in the Palestinian people, of course. And that's why we stand in solidarity with them, because the power balance are so fucked right now.
Right. And obviously, I mean, it calls into question even the definition of the word terrorism. Obviously, Leonard Peltier was arrested and is still in prison for quote unquote terrorism. The Palestinian people that resist the apartheid occupation are quote unquote terrorists, but what other response would be appropriate? And obviously that's not to absolve the murder or the killing of innocent Israeli people. That's obviously not what I'm talking about. But, resistance will turn violent if it's not addressed, or not resistance, but oppression. The oppressed people will at some point turn violent if they're not, addressed.
Don't keep a lid on a boiling pot so long.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks for that super chat, by the way. Really appreciate that. And yeah, that'd be dope if they really came out and were like, the Democrats are also, a part of this problem. They're also contributing and enabling the imperialism. I don't know. I don't pay attention too much to their rhetoric, but I certainly hope they're not doing the lesser of two evil shit. That'd be unfortunate.
I mean, I don't even think Zach De La Rocha's on Twitter or on the internet or anything. I never hear anything from him,
I
but
don't fucking know. But it's cool that they publicly backed Nader in 2000. Apparently, a lot of people publicly backed Nader in 2000, and then everyone just decided to like
buckle in 2004.
Yeah, immediately buckle after that election.
Michael Moore supported Nader in 2000, and then did that whole bullshit with Bill Maher where they publicly begged him not to run in 04.
Exactly. Well, without further ado, we're done with that segment. And again, as a reminder, we obviously stand in solidarity with the people of Palestine, and we'll continue bringing you news and updates on the situation. But without further ado, I did want to welcome to the stream our next guest. She's going to be helping us break down the AOC, Marjorie Taylor Greene drama that's been unfolding. We also have a few more stories to get to, including Elon Musk and Bitcoin. So I don't know if she'll want to stay around for that, but if so, obviously she's welcome. Anyway, she's the host of the channel Sabby Sabs, a newer lefty independent interview and commentary show. And her name is Sabrina Salvati. Welcome to the stream.
Hey guys, long time no see.
Yeah, hey, how you doing?
Doing great.
Good to hear.
Good to have you. Yeah, so I guess without further ado, we can kind of dive into. Oh well, I guess no. Actually, give people a chance to know a little bit about you. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and tell people a little bit about the show?
Hey guys, I'm Sabrina Salvati, and I host the show Sabby Sabs Podcast. I'm on YouTube and on Rockfin, and I basically do similar to Gavin and Zach. I do leftist commentary, but I also interview candidates that are running grassroots campaigns and people that are fighting for social justice, so activists as well.
Sweet.
Gotcha. Yeah, and we were actually on your show as a guest not all that long ago, had a really great conversation. So thanks again for inviting us on, and obviously we're pleased to have you on our show and hear out your perspective today on this news, which I thought was interesting, albeit I'm not going to lie. You guys love to tell me what I thought about this AOC versus Marjorie Taylor Greene thing, but to me, I woke up this morning, I'm like, it seemed like when I went to bed last night, everyone was talking about Palestine, and now everyone is talking about this. Seems a little bit suspicious. But you know me, I'm a little bit conspiratorial. Anyway, did you have any initial thoughts about this whole latest, explosion with Marjorie Taylor Greene, who just continues to be probably the biggest distraction for the mainstream media to everything that's actually wrong with our country right now?
Yeah, I had my thoughts about her when she was running. I do have friends that live in her district. So I was concerned about her. She said her main goal and mission was to go after the squad. And that's exactly what she's doing. I mean, Cori Bush had to move her office because she was afraid of her. Now she's going after AOC. So none of this surprises me. And I'm not a psychiatrist or anything, but she seems to have some type of obsessive behavior. She's obsessed with the squad. She's obsessed with Antifa. She's still talking about Antifa. She's obsessed with Black Lives Matter. Mm-hmm. She's just not willing to let it go. And she's done some things that are kind of dangerous. I still remember she had that campaign ad where she had the gun in her hand and she said, if Antifa shows up here, I'll have a surprise for them.
Was that the same ad where she shot the Green New Deal?
Yeah. So, I mean, they knew what they were getting, when she came in. I'm still shocked people voted for her to begin with.
Actually, her opponent dropped out, so she basically won the race.
Yeah, that was fucked up. I remember that. It was basically a shoo-in for her. The Democrats didn't give and this is why this breeds conspiracy amongst the Democratic Party, right? That they love to have somebody like Marjorie Taylor Greene. They didn't even run in opposition to her. Well, I think apparently the person got disqualified on a technicality, if I'm not mistaken.
He dropped out, and some people have said that some of the real radical supporters of Marjorie Taylor Greene were sending the dude a ton of hate mail, death threats, threatening his family, stuff like that. So it is possible that she kind of had the lane cleared for herself just via that insane harassment.
They didn't run to anybody else. I'm not sure. I don't think maybe it was because they couldn't.
I think it was past the deadline by the time that guy dropped out. But it is crazy that she literally just walked into Congress.
Yeah, I think that. Oh, go ahead, Sabrina.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, she's loony, and if something happens, and not to say, God forbid something does, but if something happens with her, Congress can't be oh, well, we didn't see this coming. No, you saw it coming.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. I agree with that. She seems unhinged.
Yeah, but my other thing about Sabrina, or I said Sabrina, oh my God. My other thing, Sabrina, about Marjorie Taylor Greene. God, I can't even fucking talk today. My big thing about Marjorie Taylor Greene is that I almost feel like she is just a distraction, right? Like she is one of the least powerful people in Congress, and yet she dominates so much of the media cycle. And I almost think she's successfully replicating this like micro Trumpian effect, essentially, right? So
yeah,
she
is, but I mean I totally agree with that, but I also think that I also agree with Sabrina that she should be ejected essentially from Congress, because I mean right now you're right, she's playing into the media and they're playing into what she wants, but that shouldn't be continued to be sanctioned necessarily. I don't think you should be expected to go into a workplace where someone harasses you, yells at you, stalks you, abuses you, like regardless of who's involved, regardless of how powerful everyone in this situation is, regardless of our criticisms of the squad members, I do genuinely think that what Marjorie has done in this latest instance would qualify as harassment and stalking. And it is pretty, it is dangerous. I don't know the right word necessarily, but I don't think it's the right kind of culture you want to be necessarily.
No, I'm not defending Marjorie.
I know you're not.
Yeah,
and I started off by saying that it was a distraction. I completely agree with that.
And I echo the sentiment that these people shouldn't have to live in constant fear or whatever. That's clear to me. But my critique is more of the media and how Marjorie Taylor Greene is treated as if she has so much more powerful as a rising threat in the Republican Party, as if she's, representing this new wave, when really I just think that she's all that's left from that 30% of the Trump wing. And now now that Trump's not in power, that this is where a lot of that focus is going now. And so I feel like, why would AOC even decide to, obviously she's forcing AOC to engage with her in this instance, but I feel like it's almost the best thing to do to just ignore somebody like Marjorie Taylor Greene. Yeah,
that's completely what she's doing.
And I think that the media, which obviously they won't do, would just be better served to starve, what's it when you put a blanket over a flame, you starve it of oxygen.
Snuff it out.
Yeah. And I just think that that's the lesson that we should have taken away from Trump, is the fact that somebody like this is just there to, like you said, Gavin, keep our eye away from Palestine, keep our eye away from demanding that Joe Biden give us healthcare, keep our eye away from the fact that she's not the real reason we don't have the Green New Deal. I don't care, she's provocative and she's dumb and she's problematic and she's crossed too many lines to be considered a reasonable congressional representative. But at the end of the day, she's not the reason we don't have the things that we want.
Yeah, 100%.
Right. And even on The View, like they're talking about the January attacks. They're still talking about that, like on The View. Yeah. Anything to like get our attention away from Biden and the fact that he's not doing what he said he was going to do.
100%.
Yeah. So do you think that she should have been expelled, Sabrina, when the January 6th riot went down? Because a lot of people were calling for that, including Cori Bush and the squad. Or do you think that they should have, waited for something like this to happen, where it's like, all right, this is clearly, unprofessional, borderline criminal behavior. Your time is up. When do you think is the appropriate time? Because it is a tough question. I don't want to be the kind of person that's just like, oh, this elected representative is not acting like I would, therefore they're out of power. I don't like to set that precedent either. So it is an interesting, nuanced issue, but I'm wondering where you think the line should be drawn.
Well, another thing that she did is she attacked a protester in DC too. Like she went up to a protester. There was a kid, like a teenager.
Oh, was it David Hogg? You're talking about that incident?
Yeah. So it's just like, she should have been gone. I don't know why she's still there. She's obviously not improving her behavior. But again, I just feel like she's a distraction right now.
Yeah, generally, I would agree with that. And also, she's obviously trying to bait, AOC into this debate regarding the Green New Deal. I do think that would be a waste of time. We've talked about it on the show a little bit. I do not think that would be productive. I don't think it's really even worth sanctioning debates with people that don't believe in climate change. It's a fact of science. It's a fact of reality. It's not like, you might as well debate someone on gravity, right?
Bill Nye, Ken Ham all over again.
Yeah, that's what I said when we originally broke it down. Yeah. Exactly. But I don't think that's a good use of AOC's time. And I'm really hoping that she doesn't take that bait, but also I do think that it would be interesting to see Marjorie Taylor Greene exposed in some sense. If anyone is going to destroy her ideology, hopefully someone can do it that's maybe a little bit more or has more time on their hands than an elected representative, that's supposed to be passing laws and stuff like that. I don't know. It's a tough question because she is a popular figure, and despite the fact that she is obviously massively over focused on by the media, it is true that in some sense, she is more representative of your average American Republican than a lot of her colleagues in the House. These elitist Republicans that, are more like the Mitt Romney styling. So, it's interesting for a number of reasons, because Marjorie Taylor Greene is usually the kind of voter that those elitist Republicans are, dog whistling to and signaling to get them to vote for them, not the kind of people that actually make it into power. Again, she's not really fitting into the mold of your typical elitist Republican.
Yeah, well, you make a really good point there, Gavin. And I think that the most stark thing about this is how differently the media treats somebody like Liz Cheney than Marjorie Taylor Greene. They are equally as bad, guys. And Liz Cheney probably worse because she has more institutional backing from like high levels of fundraising. I don't know what kind of fundraising numbers Marjorie Taylor Greene does, but I would imagine that they pale to the, big time money access that Liz Cheney has. And of course, she was just removed from her seats, but now she's getting all this fawning coverage from even like liberal media outlets as if she's some kind of like resistance queen because she's refused to, fall in line when the Republican Party told her so. But I just think that the most revealing thing about all of this is how the media treats the two of them completely differently when they stand for, I would say, probably 95% of the same things.
Agreed. But she's corporate though. So they're gonna defend her.
Right. Yeah. And
yeah,
then
exactly.
And I think that this is the kind of, and that's what gives, and honestly, I think the difference in treatment between Liz Cheney and Marjorie Taylor Greene to Marjorie's base gives her power. Also, from the, you know what I mean? The more that the liberals shower Liz Cheney with affection and media coverage and fawn over her, the more it empowers somebody like Marjorie Taylor Greene among their base, because she's going to expel those people from the party, those people who are standing against this authentic message of Republican values, new conservative, whatever the alt-right, whatever the fuck they call themselves now, I don't know. But this new kind of vision that they have, this Trumpian vision, where the most fundamental aspect of Trump is that he made his class about your character and your taste. Like, oh, if you're rich, are you going to order 1 million Big Macs, or are you going to eat caviar? Right? He's gonna buy 1 million Big Macs and shit on a gold toilet, just like somebody who's poor imagines that they would be when they were rich. That's kind of like one of the big things that Matt Taibbi pointed out. And I think that Marjorie Taylor Greene kind of takes that and puts like a working class, like woman of the woods kind of.
She inverts it.
Yeah.
No, I think that's very accurate. And honestly, she's just such an interesting character because mostly, like I said, when you see these Republicans talking about a lot of these issues, they're really just kind of dog whistling. They're really just kind of like, they don't really give that much of a fuck about this stuff. But Marjorie Taylor Greene, if you can tell, she really cares about this stuff. She really believes what she's saying. She's not just trying to get elected.
She's brainwashed herself.
But to a extent of mental illness, like you said, Sabrina, she's literally obsessive about some of this stuff. Like it's clearly what she's thinking about. It's not like she just says shit to get elected and then goes and governs like the rest of them. No, she's taking these values in a very literal way into the Congress. She's literally tracking down and stalking her fellow representatives and being like, yo, like, I want to talk to you about this shit. Come on. Like, I want to talk about Antifa and all this shit. Like, it's crazy. It's not a behavior that you see from any other person in Congress. And I just think it's interesting. And I mean, admittedly, like you said, they are covering it way too much, but she's giving them lots to work with.
Yeah. And there's something to be said for AOC too. Like I'm not the biggest fan of her anymore. But
who can blame you?
Yeah. Like she, some things I think she should just keep to herself. There was another incident, I think it was like a year ago. I don't remember the guy's name. It was another politician. And there was that whole issue where he called her a bitch.
Oh yeah, I do remember that. Yeah.
Remember that?
I can't remember who the fuck that was. I'm terrible at that kind of thing. But yeah, I do remember that was a spat that occurred in the media cycle.
It was Ted Yoho. He was on
there.
His
We
way
go.
out.
Gavin's amazing at that kind of thing. So that's why
he was on his way out of Congress in Florida, I believe, which is probably why he felt emboldened to make that statement. But yeah, it is. Sorry, were you making a point with that though, Sabrina?
Yeah, it's just like she doesn't need to, like, every time somebody, I mean, you guys know this, like you do like leftist commentary. I'm sure sometimes you get like, responses, or if you're on Twitter, you get like tweets or responses to you that you may not feel are appropriate or whatever. But do you go and like broadcast that every time?
Are closet lovers?
You right? I mean, imagine if every time someone did that to you, you went and you broadcasted and said, this person said this to me, this person did this to me. It's like, I don't know. Sometimes I feel like AOC wants attention.
No, that is a good.
She does want attention.
Well, that is a good point too.
That's her.
especially because her origin story that she used to talk about all the time was that I'm a working class woman, I'm a bartender and stuff. Like you probably heard a lot more nasty shit. Let's be honest, at the bar than what Ted Yoho said to you or whatever. So like, I do kind of see what you're saying.
Yeah, it just does. I mean, like, obviously, kind of like going back to what we said, right? Nobody should have to work in an environment where they get called nasty things at all. And I don't want to be a simp for whoever this Ted Yoho guy was. Fuck him. But, obviously you shouldn't call a woman a bitch regardless of the situation you're in. However, what is that on the scale of suffering when you're a politician and you're in charge of, like making these broad scale decisions, right? When you're, I'm sorry, I'm not as worked up about that as when you gave word salad answer about the suffering of the Palestinians.
Exactly. And if anything, she should take these opportunities, when the media decides to obsessively focus, for example, on Ted Yoho calling her a bitch, she should take that opportunity to go on television for the first 10 seconds, say, this was unacceptable. And obviously Ted Yoho should be called out and misogyny is not acceptable in the workplace. But then for the, rest of the 5 minutes she has on TV, why not spend that time talking about why we need Medicare for all? Or why not spend that time talking about, how the U.S. is enabling the genocide and ethnic cleansing going on in Palestine? If you're on TV, that's certainly what I would be talking about if I had 5 minutes on national television.
Mama Pelosi would say no.
Exactly. Yeah. But so I think it's definitely an interesting, discussion to have. But ultimately, I just think it's funny how this continually is happening seemingly with no resolution. Marjorie Taylor Greene just like going around like a complete like cracked out lunatic through the streets of DC, the halls of Congress. Just being a crazy woman.
We had a cracked out lunatic on the left, though.
I kind of do. I kind of do.
We had a cracked out lunatic. It's like, damn, we don't even have a cracked out lunatic that will go out on the fucking demand.
Well, and that's kind of what I was saying. Like, you can tell that AOC, like, she kind like, what I was saying, like how Marjorie Taylor Greene really believes this stuff. Like, let's be honest, to an extent, AOC, it kind of seems like after a year or two in Congress, after 3 years in Congress, some of these really intensely held beliefs, like abolishing ICE, for example, they've kind of faded. They kind of receded as far as what takes priority when she opens her mouth. But Marjorie Taylor Greene, that clearly hasn't happened. Like I said, she really still believes this stuff. She really makes it central to her identity in a way that AOC has not made, for example, abolishing ICE or even a Green New Deal central to her identity in 2021 under the Bush or the Biden administration. So, I think that if anything, we could learn from Marjorie Taylor Greene, which we really shouldn't probably be learning anything from her. But if we should learn anything, it's to, wear your values proudly. No one is confused about what Marjorie Taylor Greene stands for.
Marjorie Taylor Greene brings a motherfucking ruckus, and that's exactly what the left needs to do. Sorry, we were talking about Wu-Tang earlier.
Yeah. Anyway, one other story that I wanted to talk about briefly, and Sabrina, I don't know how much interest you have in this.
Yeah.
So if you don't have much to add, then
feel free to sit with us. We want you here, but yeah, if you don't give a shit about Elon Musk and his bullshit grifting, then that's okay.
Anyway, actually, I have someone that I know somewhat like closely, not that closely, but he's pretty into Bitcoin, pretty into cryptocurrencies and all that stuff. Also, I'm getting kind of an echo. Are you guys hearing that at all?
Yeah, I think it's because sometimes your computer audio will be picked up by your microphone audio. So if you turn the volume down a little bit lower, it might go away.
Okay, it seems like it might be better now.
Yeah, all right. Can you hear me now? Yeah, I think we're good.
I'm going to talk. So when you talk to people that are into Bitcoin and that are into cryptocurrency, when you try to, be skeptical of it and say, are you sure this is really all that it's being made out to be? One thing that I've heard recently in response to that concern is, oh, well, haven't you heard that Tesla is accepting it? That, you can buy a fucking Tesla with Bitcoin? That automatically means it's legit, right? Well, last night, the Bitcoin community got a little bit heartbroken. I got a little bit of a smash to their, optimism because indeed, Elon Musk says that Tesla will no longer accept Bitcoin card payments over environmental concerns, just seemingly maybe a month or 2 months after making the announcement that they would accept Bitcoin payments. So the Bitcoin market has kind of crashed in the wake of this news. And a lot of people that are like really into Bitcoin online seem to be pretty triggered by this news. I personally do not know or care about Bitcoin, but I still thought this was interesting and worth commenting on because Elon Musk is so cringy and because his fans are too, let's be honest.
Yeah. So Sabrina, unless you had something that you wanted to dive in here, I fucking hate Elon Musk. And as somebody who is really like, I've spent too much time around in business school, right? So for people who aren't familiar with my sordid backstory, I spent my origin story. Yeah. I spent 2.5 goddamn years in business school learning about all this bullshit. Bitcoin is it's never going to be a utility currency. It is a speculative asset and it is a grift for people right now. And that's why people like Elon Musk love to, pump and pull it, right? So, or pump and dump it essentially, right? So they're going to play the market. He's essentially manipulating the Bitcoin market because there is no regulation on what you can do. And he knows that he has so much power amongst all these tech pros and all these Silicon Valley guys that they think he's some oracle. When he talks about this shit, when he does things like this, he can artificially manipulate this market in a way that would be even illegal in Wall Street. So what he's doing when he does all of this stuff is he's saying, oh, I know that in my, whatever world he's doing, this dude is addicted to making money just like every other billionaire. He's doing all kinds of grifty transactions where he's fucking with how much Bitcoin he has, then exchanging it to something else and triaging it and doing all these kinds of things. And he's fluctuating with the market. It's the same thing he was doing with Dogecoin, which he flat out fucking admitted when he was on SNL. He said that it was a hustle to everybody, and then the Dogecoin tanked. I'm sorry. You have to be a fucking idiot to believe that Dogecoin shit wasn't hype. It's hype beast culture in fucking cryptocurrency right now. That's all that it is. This is the insane. It's the same shit that made you want to spend $15,000 on a pair of Kanye sneakers, okay, that were made in a fucking Vietnam sweatshop.
And for people that aren't familiar, what exactly is the difference between Bitcoin and Dogecoin? Because that's another thing that's going on.
So that's the thing is, I'm not sure about the semantics of it, but I can tell you exactly what Bitcoin is. Bitcoin is a cryptocurrency, obviously, but it's essentially on a blockchain. You have the key and you have the ledger. You have a public key and an encrypted key, and that amounts to Bitcoins. Bitcoins are mined by, and you get them by.
I don't know what the difference between Dogecoin is.
It's just
Bitcoin.
A different coin, like the same way you have Ethereum, you have Monero, you have all these other different kinds of cryptocurrencies that have been made. You can just decide to make one.
Like soda. You can just
exactly. 100%. It's like anything. You just make another one. It's kind of like NFTs. How anything can be made into an NFT. You can make anything into a cryptocurrency. You just name it. A lot of them are Bitcoin based. They're based on the same lot. They're based on the same algorithm that Bitcoin is used in, and they're that's why a lot of them are called like Litecoin or those.
Well, I'm getting fucking tired of hearing about it all. Anyway,
it's a fucking grift. It's a scam, and it's all. And people who want to pretend that it's like the future of currency and that we're not going to have fiat currency, you'll hear them talk about fiat currency all the time if you get into fucking crypto culture. It's all bullshit. It's all speculative assets. There's no infrastructure. There's no way to sustain it. I'm sorry, but it's all a lie, and it's all being used to exploit the market and make rich people richer.
Do you have any
but
opinions?
It's terrifying, like the amount of power that Elon Musk has.
Yeah. And do you think there's any? Do you track this stuff at all, Sabrina? Do you have any opinions on Bitcoin or cryptocurrency?
I know a little bit about it. Like I found out about different types of currency more so recently. And then also when I met with, you guys probably had to have that one-on-one meeting with Rockfin where they actually do like a video call.
Yeah.
So he had to walk me through that. And he was like, let me tell you which one to select. And I was like, what is this? There were so many different like options for like currency. I didn't even know was out there. So.
Yeah, there's a shit ton of them, and there's more and more every day. And there's all kinds of like scams and shit too. I remember one time when I was paying attention to this shit, they were gonna do like it was basically like a hedge fund. They created a token that was gonna be a hedge fund for like all investing amongst all cryptocurrencies. And they did this big launch, and they raised like a couple $100,000 in cryptocurrency money. And then they just took down the website, and they were like, haha, fuck you guys. There's no way to investigate us. So like,
it seems massively scammy to me.
Oh, it is, dude. It's
and
like
also
the Wild West of internet scams.
Yeah, exactly. And it was also funny that, I mean, a lot of people pointed out when Tesla announced it would be accepting Bitcoin, they pointed out the irony in that, given that Tesla sells itself as an environmentally friendly company, obviously, pioneering the transition to electric vehicles. But meanwhile, they're going to start accepting a currency that is notorious for its usage of electricity. It's one of the most, it generates some of the most electricity of anything out there. If you see photos of the Bitcoin mines, it's like these rooms basements full of these giant machines that just generate this shit. And again, it's all kind of abstract to me. I'm not someone that really, spends a lot of time reading about this shit or thinking about it even.
Byzantine generals problem, Gavin.
But yeah, anyway, I guess we can move on. Before we end the stream, I just did want to give you a little bit more time, Sabrina, to tell people about your channel, what you're up to. Recently, you did an awesome panel that I watched with another good friend of the show, Kamali Rose from the Radical Democracy Show.
Shout out Kamali, one of the realest ones on BreadTube.
Yeah, indeed. Shout out to Kamali, and also with Unapologetic and Nick from the Fred Hampton Leftist podcast. And you guys just did an awesome little panel about the experience of being essentially Black content creators in this space. And what do you think you guys, like, what kind of conclusions do you think were reached in that panel? What do you think this space could maybe work on to make sure that different voices of color are being represented and heard as well?
Yeah, good question. I think part of it is just YouTube's algorithm, which none of us have any control over. Mm-hmm. It just is what it is. But when we all got together, what we did find is that if we do put certain words in the title, like if we put the word Black in the title, that YouTube will either like demonetize it or they find ways to suppress that video. So for me, like personally, I post everywhere, all across like all different platforms. So that actually helps a little bit. But I think just in general, all of us kind of got into this because we did see that there was like a void with leftist commentary on YouTube. There just aren't many African Americans that are doing this. Like for the longest times, the only one I knew was like Tim Black and Nico House. And there were like no Black women. And so I just thought like, why doesn't anyone like fix that? And since I was already on YouTube, I used to do vlogs about my life in Boston. So I already had experience doing content creation. And then when COVID came, I live in Massachusetts, my state completely shut down. And it was like that for a while. So I couldn't go out and vlog to like baseball games or anything like that. And I thought maybe now is the time to move in that direction, to start that. So I think that, ways of fixing that, like some of the things like what you're doing right now, like having like me and Kamali like come on.
Hey, shout out to Kamali. He actually had us on his show way before we ever had him on his show. So shout out to Kamali for that.
Yeah, like it's really hard right now in independent media on YouTube to find like smaller channels, period. It's just very difficult. And I think that what you guys are doing, like having people on like your platform and doing like crossovers, I think that really helps a lot. But in reference to the algorithm, I don't think YouTube's gonna really fix that or change that.
The algorithm is so fucked. And honestly, I know that our content has been popping off a little bit more lately, but I will say don't give up because we had to spend months, toiling away trying to break the algorithm too. It is really a patience test more than anything. I think most people just give up because they just feel like there's no light at the end of the tunnel, like they're just going to be speaking into the void forever. But if you do stick at it, I do think that your voice will, break through all the noise. And, I think your commentary is really good. So I think that that's certainly in the future if you keep at it. But there's no denying that there's, there's also those algorithmic, where they demonetize the word Black, for example, or limit it. That's crazy. That's insane. At that point, that's just like,
that's criminal, essentially,
information,
right? Yeah, it should be against the law.
Yeah.
But I also echo all of Gavin's sentiments. You're obviously a lovely personality and have a great presence on the camera and on the microphone. And we desperately need more voices from all backgrounds hollering and getting outraged on the left. So, as you said, we love to have people on the show. You obviously are always welcome on the show. We like to have an always flowing panel of guests. Gavin and I have talked about how it'll be cool for us if we can, at one point facilitate having multiple guests on every time we do this fucking show. Like, we like doing it with people that aren't us all the time because I think that gets a little stale.
Right. And also there's just such a lack of representation in media in general. Like how think of how few Palestinian voices there are right now that are
Mhm.
adding to the commentary on the situation going on. I would really love to have someone, a Palestinian activist on. If anyone has any recommendations, please.
That guy got
leave
arrested.
them.
Did you see the poet
The
that
one
went
that
on?
was
Yeah.
going on CNN and stuff. Yeah,
What
I
was
know.
his
It's
name?
fucking crazy. So obviously, people might be afraid to do it if they're still literally living in Palestine, to go out there and speak the truth. But I mean, even Palestinian Americans, it seems like there's very few, if any, of them in this space. So it really is true that it's a white male-dominated space, and there's no doubt that we all need to do our part to make sure that it more accurately reflects the left, which is, of course, very, very diverse. I remember, one of the things that I was first struck by when I really got into leftism was around obviously 2015 when Bernie Sanders was running, and of course the entire media was trying to pretend like Bernie's supporters all looked like me.
Yep.
But when I went to the first Bernie rally I ever went to, I was like, very few of these people look like me.
Yeah.
I'm surrounded by people of all races, all genders, all ages. This is crazy. This is awesome. So, I think that should be reflected in BreadTube as well. And, thanks for doing what you do. We certainly enjoy your content and look forward to having you back on the Vanguard, Sabrina.
Yeah, and also just to say, we know it's fucking hard to get out of there and keep fucking doing it and putting up the grind because, yeah, as Gavin mentioned, like our shit has been popping off a little bit now, and that's been like really exciting, and we're hella grateful for it. But for a long time, it was doing podcasts that got like 30 views. It was like spending an hour and a half talking about something after you researched it and wanted to, and then getting like 10 or 15 people to watch it over weeks. It's just YouTube has a way of working its algorithm out, and your shit just doesn't get shown to people, and you have to break into media diets and all that stuff. So yeah, we appreciate you grinding, doing the hard work, and as we said, thanks for coming on the show today.
Thanks, guys.
Have a good one.
Peace out. And I guess that's the end of our show today.
Yeah.
We enjoyed that conversation. Had a lot of good topics to go over. We'll be back soon. In fact, we'll be back tonight.
Yeah, we'll be back
stay
in like
tuned.
30 minutes.
Yeah, at 7 o'clock p.m. Central, 8 Eastern. We'll be back on a new live stream. So hit that notification button and subscribe if you have not already. We're going to be back with Kamali of the Radical Democracy Show doing episode 2 of our Cornell West Democracy Matters book club. We're super excited. It's going to be a conversation.
Palestine.
Yeah, exactly. We're actually going to be talking some more about Palestine. So if you want to hear that, make sure to, again, subscribe, hit the notification button, and sit tight. We'll be right back, guys. Everyone, peace out.
Yeah, peace out, guys. We'll be back in a little bit.